of Nikki Buck, Pam Rowe, Superintendent Carson Anderson, Jennifer Tift, Arlen Dirks, Holly Tower, and myself, Anna Ostendorf here. Jim Bryant will be joining us shortly. So I will have us stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, because this is a workshop, our agenda is not able to be changed. The first item that we have is our flexible work plan. So Ms. French is here to go over the draft of that with us. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. If I could have a few minutes just to read something, and then I'll open it up for questions because I know you have a copy of the draft.
Sounds good.
So the COVID-19 pandemic has put remote work, telework, hybrid work, and flex work front and center as a hot topic among management, employees, and job seekers. It has literally brought the future of work into the present. In order to retain and recruit a larger pool of qualified candidates for positions that may be eligible for a flexible work situation, we must be willing to shift to what the workforce is seeking. Red Wing Public Schools staff who are able have been flex working for the last 2+ years, sometimes with little or no notice, and doing so successfully. Every staff member of our district has wholeheartedly shown up wherever they are, taking advantage of technology, flexing their work time, adjusting vacations, and often working overtime to provide students with a quality education. Every employee in our district has stepped up, supported our students and families and one another throughout uncertain times by being flexible and thinking outside the box. The concept of flex work may be new to Red Wing Public Schools, but it's definitely not a new concept. Long before the pandemic, businesses in both the private and public sector have been allowing, supporting, and advocating for these types of arrangements. Having a flex work arrangement, allows businesses, including public education, to recruit competitively, retain talent, provide for greater productivity, and especially in rural areas, recruit from a larger geographical area. It can increase the candidate pool from various socioeconomic levels and cultural backgrounds. Public employers are also redefining their work strategies to include remote, hybrid, or flexible work. I have received copies of these types of work arrangements from the City of Red Wing and Winona Public Schools, just to name a couple. I just want to briefly go over the 3 that are mentioned in there. It talks about flex time, compressed work week, and alternate work locations. So flex time basically just means adjustments to the start and end times of your day. Pretty straightforward. Compressed work is completing a 40-hour work week outside the expectation of 5 days per week or 8 hours a day. Alternate work locations, and I'll use myself as an example. And first off, I want to say some education jobs just can't be performed remotely. Custodians, bus drivers, food service workers, but for some eligible employees, working from a site which isn't their assigned location can increase productivity, minimize distractions, and ensure work is completed in a timely manner. So for instance, myself, I do the STAR report twice a year, thousands of pieces of data, takes hyper concentration. One day in a situation where I can have minimal distractions could be several days in the office. And that STAR report, it has a hard due date. A lot of our reports to MDE do. We don't have the flexibility to adjust those. So the option of having a place where I can go do that with minimal distraction is important so that I have free time to do other work. In summary, Flexible work arrangements are the new normal. Our district, like so many other businesses, has had to shift in imagining how work is performed. We found ways to support staff while maintaining expectations of positions. We became flexible, innovative, thoughtful, and deliberate in how the hard work of the past 2 years was accomplished. In a nutshell, every employee from administration on down sacrificed, worked hard, and delivered by being flexible and dedicated to our community. Being able to provide flexible options will allow the district to retain trustworthy, dependable staff who are able to complete the essential functions of their position through this arrangement. Red Wing Public Schools has an opportunity to create a new, more attractive workplace, to bring in talent from a larger area, and be a driver of transformation as a public sector employer. We now have a better opportunity to add new diversity and inclusion, age and gender balance into public employment. Flexible work offers the opportunity to lay a foundation for new ways of trust-based working, managing, and supporting the Red Wing Public Schools mission. Does anybody have any questions about the draft that was posted? I have my pen and paper ready to take notes.
And just to clarify, you did not just read the draft. I mean, there's a
No, I
separate
can.
document.
Yeah.
No, that's fine.
Yeah.
I just wanted to
No,
clarify for
That
everyone.
was just my own. I put my thoughts on paper. That's what I did as the HR manager.
Do we just have that one
sheet.
attachment?
Mm-hmm.
So how would somebody who's working remotely be supervised? How would that work?
Well, they would still report to their supervisor. Ultimately, I also want to point out the supervisor has the discretion and makes the ultimate decision if an employee can work remote or in just a flex work environment. You know, this isn't just about remote work. Personally, in our environment, complete remote probably is not good unless you've got a work accommodation, you know, that's ADA. That's a different situation. We're talking about the everyday here. But supervisors, you'd have to be available by phone, email. If your supervisor requires your presence, you have to be willing to do that. If your supervisor feels like the situation isn't working, then that's a conversation the supervisor and the employee can have.
And will there be like some form that you fill out, or is it just a conversation that an employer would have with their supervisor? How would one go about requesting that?
Well, we can do it either way. I actually have a draft of a form, but I wasn't prepared to present that because it was a draft and I wanted to get thoughts first. I believe our employees I believe that our management, administration, supervisors, we trust our employees to always be doing the next right thing. I would rather not have to go through forms and have to manage that administratively. I would rather have it begin with conversation. Kind of like what we've been doing the past 2+ years, and it's worked. And if it doesn't work, we can always revisit. You know, this is a draft. It's a fluid document. You know, this kind of work arrangement, it isn't new, but it kind of is new. We've all been kind of forced into it over the last 2+ years, but this was intended to be the future of work. We all, you know, with technology, it's really become something that we didn't anticipate having to jump into so soon, but it was always on the horizon in the HR world.
Yes.
I see the merit of this, but I also have concerns that we need to have our staff here as often as necessary. And I'm not opposed to the draft here, but I think we need to maybe in everybody's job description, determine who could qualify and for what, if and when that they could do the work from home, or every employee's job description should clarify. I'm trying to figure out where the clarity comes, otherwise if we just have everybody wanting to go, and yeah, sure, it could create a problem, so. I mean, obviously, a job description of custodian, as you said, unless there's some extenuating way of doing things, it's gonna need to be present in their job description, but some other functions could say that they can operate remotely under these conditions for this amount of time with this approval. I think it's an area that should come back out of the job description for that person.
We can certainly look into that.
I don't know.
Well, you know, my hesitation in doing that is then it's in black and white and we lose some of the flexibility without having to redo a position description. And the nature of our work is changing all the time. Doesn't matter what position you're in. We've all seen that happen. I would prefer to see it on a case-by-case basis, but that's certainly something we can look into.
I'm not saying that the job description says it says can happen on a case-by-case basis or something in that job description.
Yeah.
Or something like that. I don't know, maybe I'm going the totally wrong direction. I'm not saying put it in a job description and that means, oh, then we can work remote. It could say something to the effect that under certain circumstances, remote work may be approved. May be approved.
Right.
By whoever we designate.
Right. Correct. And I think that's in consultation with Karsten and or myself.
Obviously, yeah.
Yeah, to determine what positions would qualify for that. Thank you.
Is that?
I like the idea of flexible, but the thing is something struck a chord with me. That the adults need to have space away for less distractions. Until we do right by our children that have ADHD, that have a medical diagnosis of this, I'm never going to be accepting to adults of that, ever, first and foremost. Second, I don't like the idea of this, up to the supervisors, because I've been in multitude of different working environments. There's favoritism. That sets up an environment for favoritism, and I don't like that either. Because then bullying goes on with adults and stuff like that. No. And then third, we have a problem with getting bodies in here. I just get paid for the school board job. I don't get paid for a job here, but I've come in to help. It would be nice if the people that we are paying, if that could be part of the flexible work plan learning. I know that I've heard from librarians that they would like to participate in training, like maybe trauma training, because they're the ones that get all the kids that are upset. So that's kind of where I would like to see flexible, but I really like the idea for the future. But until we get everything in control in this building, I'm gonna vote for we need more bodies in the building.
Thank you.
So Nikki, I was taking notes. Could you just repeat the second concern that you have?
Okay.
And I'm sorry, I had it in my mind and I started writing down.
When we leave it up to supervisors to decide who can, no matter where you are, it happens everywhere. It sets up a ground for an environment for favoritism to happen. And I just like to make a straight, fair shot right across the board. If we're trying to do that for our students, we as the adults have to be making that example too.
Thank you, that's the point that you made.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Mr. Bryant?
Thank you. I walked in partway through, but I'm very involved in this working virtually as we did our work for a little bit because of COVID, people getting COVID. At the end of the day, I agree with Nikki, we need bodies here. And if somebody doesn't wants to only work remotely, then sorry, then go look for another job. That's fine. But yeah, we do need bodies here. For you, for example, you're the human resource person, that means human resource. To me, that means people come to you for staff with questions and things. We need you here, not by email, not by phone call, some down the road. So there's pros and cons to working virtually because of technology, but not everybody has a job that is just working on computers stuff, whereas you're dealing with people. So I would be very hesitant to look at just open a policy saying leave it up to the supervisors, like Nikki said. You can do it, you can't. I think most of the day we need people here because we're a school. We have students in our building. We're dealing with people, and that's what we need them. We need them here. That's what we have these buildings for. 2.5 years ago, nobody even thought twice about working remotely. Because COVID came, now we all think we have to work remotely. I'm not positive that I'm not in favor of thinking that just because COVID came, now we all have to look at doing working remotely. So very, very hesitant to look at this because of those things I just stated.
Thank you. I just want to make a clarification that this is certainly not 100% remote. This is dependent on, for instance, I'm going to use myself as an example, the STAR report that's twice a year. I'm in no way, or we are in no way advocating for people to be 100% remote. But in the event that I'm out at Burnside, rather than running all the way back, I'll stay at Burnside. But I'm expected to follow the expectations and responsibilities laid out here, no matter where I am. So when I talk about an alternate work location, I'm not talking about every time it's home. I just want to clarify that. There's many of us that travel around the district, and sometimes it's just not, it doesn't make sense for us to be driving back to be in our physical location unless we have an appointment to attend. We know somebody's waiting for us. If there's an hour left in the day, I can stay out at Burnside after completing my work out there, answer my emails, make phone calls, connect with people in a different site that normally don't even get here. So I just want to clarify that I'm not advocating for 100% remote. None of us are. We're just saying flexible, no matter where you are in the district doing your work.
Did the STAR report change? Where you have to now go to the buildings?
No.
I don't recall my wife ever going to other buildings doing the STAR report.
No, I go to other buildings for investigations, accommodation meetings.
I took it as you did.
Oh, no. No, I don't. It's all data driven.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Two separate reasons.
I wholeheartedly agree with both of you. I wrote those same words down. We need bodies in the building. I mean, we keep coming to this table and hearing that same thing. So even if it's a person who could work remotely, we need them in the hallways for supervision in between classes, we need people. So I get that piece. I completely agree with you about just leaving it up to the supervisor. I don't think that's a good idea at all. I think it needs to be a team of people who look at an application of some sort. I don't think it is a good idea at all to just leave it up to being flexible and seeing who comes and asks for it. I think it absolutely needs to be black and white, that it's kind of like a contract. You're signing a contract and you're agreeing to do this for this many hours. And if I were the supervisor, I don't think I'd want to be the sole person signing off saying, yep, go ahead. I don't think I'd want to put myself in that position as a supervisor. Because what if we have 5 people at Burnside working remotely and 2 people at Cobble and 7 people at Twin Bluff. I mean, somebody needs to be in charge of seeing this overall seeing this whole program. We can't just say, oh yeah, we've got 50 employees working remotely. Somebody needs to know that number. So I would say, I mean, we're all about black and white here around this table. We're all about policies and procedures, and we expect our teachers to do that. We're gonna be going over policies in a little bit, so I work remotely at home. But there's a lot of X's and Y's that come with that. It's not just, I don't feel like going in today, or, oh, I'm gonna go to the medical center instead of the clinic, or, I mean, I think there should be flexibility. If you're out at Burnside, I don't think you should have to come back. That makes no sense, but I don't know that we need a flexible policy, flexible work plan in order to accommodate that. I would think that that's common sense. As long as your supervisor knows where you are, get your work done and make your day, very productive. But do we have any idea of how many people this is, let me say one more thing. And if it's a medical or a physical accommodation that needs to be had, that's a completely different story. And
Right.
that's a whole different track. But if it's someone who just says, I might get more work done at home, yep, I totally get that, I understand that. But I think there needs to be some very black and white expectations and policies and a way to track those people and supervise those people and make sure things are getting done. But like you said, we need people in this building especially, but even all of our buildings, we need more bodies there. So to say some people can work from home, I mean, I see the benefit in that, but I think we need to have some really carefully thought out checks and balances. That's my 2 cents.
Holly's next.
Sorry, what?
Holly's
Yep,
next.
Ms. Tower?
Thank you. You framed it perfectly. Checks and balances. Extenuating circumstances, sick leave, care of a sick child. Yes, those are normal things in which one wouldn't question, but statements such as they work from home on such and such day, always, or they work from home at this time, always. To me, that borders on when doesn't that happen? The trust, that's everybody's, parameters of how they trust. You may be more trusting than somebody else around what somebody's doing. Doesn't mean you're right or wrong. It doesn't mean the other person's right or wrong in terms of trust. It's personal experience with that person. So if there's an extenuating circumstance, now flex hours, I don't think would include working from Burnside if you had to do an investigation. That's the language I was getting confused on, because remote working, for me, the definition would be remote working would be working from some place not work related. That's how I see it. But like Pam indicated, she works from home. I know several people who have been told by their employees, there's no office anymore. You are a remote employee. We still provide an office. We pay the heat, we pay the water, we pay the electricity. We're still providing those things as a workspace. So work from Burnside versus work from home are 2 separate things to me. Or work from a park, or work from work from your child's activity. I don't know what draws the line. That's why I've asked for clarifications on what does this look like? What's going on? And it's come to me through people that work for the district. Why do people work? Why aren't people in the office? What is going, I don't know. So and I've asked, this hasn't been the first time I've asked about this. It's been over a year that I've asked for this. And I'm not saying, just different things prevented it. But the language matters. And if it would almost feel like in a contract even, it would be specified when somebody, if they're an at-will employee versus a bargaining group employee. You know, as an at-will employee, you have so many flex hours to work in a remote environment, 40+ hours, you know, every 6 months or something like that. I don't know how that goes into PTO and sick time, but it feels very messy in the big picture of things. And I think what I hear is asking for is more specificity.
Well, you bring up a good point because it is a contractual issue too. I mean, in the bargaining groups that's a big thing. How come they get to, but our bargaining group doesn't, you know, it's also nature of different jobs and things, but I would think that you'd want to spell that out in a contract too.
Oh, sorry.
That's it?
I was just, this is an interesting conversation. I appreciate everyone's perspective. I was just gonna say that I think we need to really consider a balance. And yes, we need to have the expectations for the employees and the groups, but we also have to have a level of trust that our employees are going to do the job that they've been assigned and meet the expectations that we have for them. So I do agree with what Amy said about, you know, in the job world that we live in right now, we need to have some flexibility, and I think it's important to have that so that in certain positions, perhaps we could we could reach out and find future candidates. Our hiring process may look a little bit different in certain positions. Obviously, there are many positions within the school district where that would not work. But I agree that there needs to be set expectations and more of an outline of what that would look like. But I think this is a great idea, honestly. I think I'm outnumbered here, but I do think that having our staff have some flexibility to get their job done can have them do a better job. And I have a job that's like that, and it's absolutely amazing to have that flexibility. It makes me a better worker because I love my job more. I want to do better work. I appreciate the people who I work for because they appreciate me and everything that goes on in my life. And if a school district could be that for their employees, that could make a world of difference on morale and future finding employees to work for school districts. I think it's a huge piece that we are missing. I'm not at all saying that we should just willy-nilly let anyone go do whatever they want. Obviously, expectations need to be written down, and we need to know who is able to do this, but I do think it could help us out a lot.
Thank you.
Mr. Deere?
Yeah, there's a lot of good discussion here. I know where we're headed in the future, all around in the labor market and everything else, and I think we need to take time to identify what positions can be done remotely, and maybe we don't need to build offices. On the flip side, we gotta make sure that those employees that are not working in person are productive and not working with distractions in the environment they choose to be at. The example I'm thinking of here is early April, I was a couple hours out of Red Wing and I was driving and I got to thinking, I need to go and do my Alive and 55 driving renewal, and I haven't done it. So I pulled over, I called Community Ed. So I'm remote calling, and I'm talking to somebody at Community Ed, and they're looking on their computer or what dates are available and different things. And everything that person did could have been done somewhere else just as well as it could be done in this building. Unless that person also has to meet the public for their demands. But there are many positions as our work environment here and all around us are going to evolve that we do need to put in something. It's no different than one-to-one electronics, and weren't there 5 years ago, and we've gotten to that point. It's just a natural part of everything we're doing. There are jobs that can be done as well or better remotely, and there are jobs that we can think are going to be done remotely and done well, and they're going to be distracted with their kids or their pets or whatever it might be at home and not be able to do their job. So I think with the right work right parameters, this is a good thing to do. It's just gonna take some time to establish what those positions are, what criteria, how we're going to make it work. But I think it's very progressive of us to be even considering it here at this time. I don't know if we're ready right now. I think in certain positions we are. How do we decide what positions those are? I don't know, but eventually we're gonna have to build office space and other stuff unless the enrollment keeps going down and our services continue to decrease. And it might save us some building costs. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Anderson?
Yeah, and I actually don't think we're very far apart, to be honest with you, just from some of the comments made. The goal of this is not to encourage people to do remote work. That's not it at all. It really, I'm not aware of any requests for actually regular, time away from work. It would be periodically under exceptional circumstances, I think. So for example, teachers, this past year, we've allowed them to work from home on some staff development days because everything was remote. It was one-on-one training that they could do remotely with other people. And so I think my guess, and obviously you don't have all the facts, about that particular one, but we might agree that that's a good thing to do. I know that we allow work remotely for our food service workers, like if there's an e-learning day, which makes sense because the roads might be bad or something like that. We do some of those kinds of things. I'd never thought of the sick child, like Holly brought up. And I'm not convinced that should be a time when we allow it, but maybe it is. I just don't know. And then the other issue that we should probably think about, and I've not talked to Amy about this, but is there a difference between exempt and non-exempt employees? And I honestly don't know, so that's something that we can certainly check out. So again, we're not, or at least I'm not thinking that we want to encourage this or start, farming out positions, all remote. That's not the thinking here at all. Like many of you have said, meet people in the building. For me, I'm a lot more productive when I'm in the building. I need my keyboard and my trackball. I just go nuts when I have my laptop someplace else. That's me. Other people do just as fine or even better at home. But I think like maybe Holly mentioned, language matters. So, and maybe, some of the information on this first draft, we need to hone up or give some examples or do something different so that we can kind of come to a closer consensus.
Mr. Dirks?
Yeah, thank you. One of the things I was thinking is we got attendance line, parents calling in the morning that their child is sick and not going to be attending. I don't know how many people actually come into the building to tell anybody that. I suspect not very many. Most of the time it's going to be a call-in. That is a function that could be done remotely. The point of it is, what does that person do the rest of the day? It's probably from 6 in the morning till, I don't even know if we got somebody available 6 in the morning, answer the phone, 7 in the morning, whatever, until 9 or 10, they're done. If we had this remote setup, might be possible to hire part-time people to work 3 or 4 hours a day for a function like that and not anything else. And might work out well for somebody and us. And I'm not advocating to do that right now. I'm just thinking that people, if you drive to work, you have an expectation you're going to work a certain number of hours to make your transportation cost effective in order to do it. Whereas if you can do something remotely for 2 to 4 hours, maybe you don't need to have that other travel. Maybe it'll work some with other stuff. So I'm just trying to be open-minded with many different ideas.
I think that's a good example. The other one I want to throw out is our part of our COVID team. She was not in Red Wing, one of our COVID team members, and worked completely remote to do her job. I believe she was on the last consent
Is she an
agenda.
employee of the district? Or is she contracted?
She was an employee of the district. We posted for COVID callers,
Yeah, real part-time.
real
Oh,
part-time.
Yeah, part-time.
Yeah.
I thought you meant the COVID team.
Oh, no, the COVID
Yeah,
callers.
I get
Yep, so that's an example similar to what you're
But I
talking
suppose,
about.
And I think we're getting good feedback. I'll give you one quick example would be our COVID response team did spend a lot of time on weekends taking calls throughout, the last 2 years. And, none of us here would expect them to actually drive into the school building to take those calls, that's why I'm on weekends. But I think, Holly's next, but if I could just say that, I think this is really good feedback and we'll be able to come back and, language does matter. And so I think we need to make it clear that this is not kind of an open door, to be, very specific reasons.
Ms. Stark?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I'm encouraged by your statement where you said this is not the goal, that people work from home.
Right.
The goal is that people are here, but providing language and circumstance. And I go back again to contracts versus at-will employees versus how people take on the job and what that morphs into. Is the pandemic over? I have no idea. Are people sick more often? Yes. We did cut off sick pay for our teachers when they asked us to continue that as a board. So, there's those things that always stick in the back of my head. And so that's just the stuff I'm balancing when I'm thinking about this or observing it. But I really am encouraged by what you just said, Kirsten. Thank you.
But we just have to explain that better, in the next draft. And that's why
Yeah,
we came to the board,
I would like to point out that this is just kind of wrapping some arms around something we've been doing for 2+ years. This is just starting the process of putting some parameters out there, and right.
Yeah.
And flex work can also be expanded into our phased retirement. So we have some people doing that. Job sharing, like you were kind of referring to with getting a few part-timers versus a full-time. So it's broad. Flex work is broad, which is the intent, was to keep it broad so we had some wiggle room on which direction to go and get feedback. But yeah, to Karsten's point, we're not intending to sort of shove people to work from home. I'm like Carson, I get more done when I'm here, but there are occasions where, putting a postie on my door saying, please do not disturb, sometimes isn't quite enough when I'm knee deep in a STAR report, for instance, or the pay equity or something. But thank you, everybody, for your feedback. I appreciate it.
Jim is next.
Ms. Bryant?
Thank you. I know we kind of beat this one pretty good. But I don't know what Jennifer does. She does work remotely great. I don't know what type of job she does versus other people that work remotely and that. We could pick and choose all the thing here tonight, and that's not going to solve it. But really, I think we loud and clear, we heard new people in the building. And the second thing I heard, we didn't say specifically this, but you really don't have much interaction with staff or the public, there's a possibility there. But if you have interaction with staff and the public, at your position that you're at, you be hard pressed to say, I should be working, I want to work virtual or remotely or whatever. So those are what I picked out of this whole conversation here. Everybody's, don't get me wrong, Pam I don't think has any interaction with people on her job, so perfect fit right there. I didn't mean to pick on you, but you just said you said you work remotely, so I know what she kind of does. I don't know what you do.
Stop pointing at me. I don't necessarily work remotely, though. I think it's important to remember the flexible piece is not just remote, but in perhaps the hours of the day that you work too. And I am not in any way arguing that we do not need bodies in our buildings. We absolutely do, and I think our staff recognizes that. But it's just, if there's a flexibility there in hours, and I just think it's important to remember that that's different from being remote online and virtual.
As flexibility is a big word. There's a lot of letters in it, and it means a lot of things. Could be working remotely. It could be give me an extra hour for lunch. Give me a little bit more training. Give me a little bit more. Can I work Saturday instead of Monday this week? There's a lot of flexibility comes a lot of things. How you manage all that is management's really a big issue, because how do you keep track of that? I make it fair and balanced, like Nikki says. You know, so, I'm all for flexibility. But to what extreme? You know, where else, where do you lose it?
Ms. Rowe?
I think I'll just end by saying, I think I'm not opposed at all to this idea. And it may be, I think there definitely needs to be some checks and balances, but I think it may be worth a conversation with our educational planner, because there may be some really great potential for positions. If maybe somebody wants to work part-time remotely making calls, that's awesome. Maybe we can put some work together for somebody to work off-site to, I know i3 Works does a lot of stuff with our data, but, is there somebody that can work remotely to call all of our students on a regular basis that have chosen to go somewhere else, checking in? Hey, how are you? What's going on? There could be some really great opportunities, I think, to have a conversation with our educational planner on maybe we could, and maybe there is a cost savings there.
That's a great example, actually. It wouldn't be a full-time job, but maybe, yeah, I think we have good feedback. And by the way, this is a great example of why workshops are good.
Yeah.
Instead of us trying to present something for approval, we present something, we get a lot of feedback, and then we'll come back. So thank you. And thanks, Amy.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Next up, we're gonna run quickly through our policies that were up for review. So there are a couple that are a little out of number sequence, 501 and 507, just because those ones had some recommended changes by MSBA. And so I believe they were included as a red line, yeah?
Correct. So for example, policy 5041, or 501, sorry, about weapons,
Yes.
under Roman numeral 3D, that's a new section where it talks about dangerous weapon. So that's a new part. And of course, they get these definitions right from state law. So, we aren't making them up here,
Thank goodness.
obviously. Yeah. I'm just scrolling down. There's some minor changes, like writing out the word statue and those kinds of things.
Yeah. Does anybody have any comments, questions about 501? Those extras, okay. So 507 is corporal punishment. It adds in school district or charter school in the red line, and then the rest of the red line is references or cross references. Anyone have any questions for 507? Okay. 616 is school district system accountability. So all of this, most of these red lines are adding in K-12 versus just the school. I think that was the only and then it's spelling out Minnesota statutes and updating references. Anyone have questions about 616? Okay. 619, I don't have a red line. That one. That.
Lisa's on the call. Lisa, do you have a copy of 619? Are there changes, or was it up for review, or is that one of them that we don't currently have?
It's currently on our site.
Yeah, you can double check.
619 is a current policy, staff development for standards. But I didn't see that it was changing. I don't have any issues with the existing policy.
she'll double check.
While Lisa's working on that, 623 is also the red line. But again, very minimal adding to Minnesota for Department of Education. It's not a statute. And that was for the mandatory summer school instruction. That's what 623 is. Anyone have questions about 623? Okay. So I see Lisa has 619 pulled up. Lisa, do you know if there were any red line changes for this? Because it wasn't added as an extra, so I didn't see if there were.
I do not recall there being any, but I can check on the website a second on MSBA and see if they have one posted. I don't recall there being one, but I could have missed it.
That might just be one that they're requesting us to review. And then 624 is online learning options. Which is, as far as I know, it doesn't have suggested changes either
I don't have 624.
in the packet.
Am I missing a page?
Yeah, it's not a red line. So 617 and 624, we don't have red lines for. I don't know if they were just suggested reviews from MSBA or if there were suggested changes that we just don't have added to ours.
It's still on the agenda.
Right, but just not the actual policy, right?
Right,
It's
so,
on the agenda, so what is the name of the policy, just to refresh my memory?
online
Six-
learning options.
Yes.
That's what it's called, okay.
619 is staff development for standards and 624 is online learning options.
Thank you.
Is that 619, Lisa, that you have pulled up? It has some red line?
Yes, that is the red line portion of 619.
Okay. Can we maybe just add those to the next agenda? 619, and if 624 also has red line, to see what MSBA's suggested changes are. Like for me,
I apologize for not getting those on as extras.
sorry, what was that, Lisa?
I said I will add those to the next one, and I apologize for not having those on as extras.
Oh, it's okay, thank you. Okay, and then, let me get back here. 701 and 702 are just part of our, like, working through the policies, so there aren't any, as far as I know, there are not any suggested changes for 701 or 702. It's just the every 3-year reading of them. So 701 is establishment and adoption of school district budget. And this is all pretty much based on Minnesota state statute. And 701.1 is modification of the school district budget, which I think we're all unfortunately too familiar with. And then policy 702 is accounting. So again, based on state statute and how we keep track of things. Those 3 are pretty short policies and all pretty much just based on state statute and what's required of us. So, any thoughts about 701, 701.1 or 702? Sorry, it's too many numbers.
By the way, usually it's not this complicated because we can go through the reviewed policies in one lump sum. But MSBA came out with a whole bunch of revisions kind of right in the middle of it.
Yep,
So that's why we're kind of going back and forth. So my apologies for that. A year from now will be a lot easier.
So we will take a, sorry.
It will be agreed.
Yeah.
We're
A
gonna
lot
call you,
easier for Arlen.
we're gonna send them to you and ask you to still review them. So 619 and 624, we can look at our next workshop, just so that we have a chance to see those red lines. I'm expecting it's probably pretty non-controversial, add a word, take a word type things. But if there are no other thoughts about these, we'll move right along. Okay, so then we are up to our school board procedures. So we have our handbook. Sorry, I'm gonna get to where I have all the things. So I wanted us to have a chance to review that handbook and then also add in any other other things that we saw necessary. Okay, sorry, I just got. Okay. Nice. Okay. Ms. Tower, are you in the queue for this?
Yes,
Okay,
thank you.
yes.
Two things as I was reviewing it from before. We were gonna do a board self-evaluation, and we were gonna do the superintendent's evaluation. And I thought we were supposed to have those done by June?
We're doing
Am I
it in
wrong?
June.
We're doing them in June,
Yes.
both of them. Okay, I got my timing wrong. So I just was, when I was looking through it earlier, I was like, I know we're gonna do those. Okay, great.
Yeah, we talked about doing the board evaluation. Let me look at my notes. Filling out the survey for the MSBA tool for that in June. And then reviewing it. What happened on this one? Probably July or August, I think. Yeah, August 15th, that was the plan, to review the board evaluation results.
August 15th,
Yep, because we'll get the report back from MSBA.
and
with
that's the
that.
self-eval.
Yep.
Yep, okay.
And then we'll need to do the superintendent review as well.
And did we have a timeline for that?
June is all I have established at this point.
I know the actual document calls for it being done in April or May.
Yeah.
Oh,
But, every year we end up in the same situation where it's always busy in the spring. You know, not only here at school, but we have a lot of budget decisions and other things. So we may want to consider just moving it to June on a regular basis. After the school year's over, we can kind of focus on that. It's not up to me, you know, it's up to the board, but just worth considering possibly.
Pam, could you refresh our memory why we did it in April and May?
Well, the April, May is kind of a put your toe in the water and check out, let's review the goals that we had established from the big one in November, December. So it's just kind of a touch base on those goals. How are things going? How do we think, are there other things that we can do as a board to support the superintendent to get those goals moving? So really, it's just kind of a mid-year.
Was that like the 6th?
Yes, so,
6 months.
we always talked
Yeah.
about May, we did the process in May. Usually it's the first one in June that we reported out on, so we're maybe 2 weeks behind.
I can get that.
It shouldn't be that cumbersome, it should be pretty easy to do, I would think.
I can get that sent out in the next week here. Probably, we may not have it for June 6th, but maybe June 20th.
As I was looking at this, I really like this document for us as a board to really go back and just have some sort of things written about our purpose and how we should respond and how we work together and discriminating things. I'm wondering if we shouldn't have an article in there about upcoming, like elections and onboarding new school board members, because, are there basic things that we should be covering in end of November, beginning of December for the new people, so that when we start in January, we can all be starting on a somewhat, I mean, but I think we lost some orientation pieces when you three came on, and I think you were behind the eight ball a little bit because we didn't really cover a lot. I
We did
mean, we
virtual.
tried.
We did a virtual orientation.
We tried, but I think there was a lot of things missing. One of the things that I think is really important for the new school board members to know is what are the superintendent's goals? And where are we at with them? Because you come in January and you're all of a sudden supervising somebody you don't know anything about.
So what would be the fill-in pieces?
Right, what should we, and we can maybe all brainstorm some ideas
I
at
love
some point, of how we could add that.
Superintendent and school district.
Yeah, and we have goals as a board, what are our goals, as we work together, so. I think this document here is a really great start, but I think we really need to have some good thought about what we really want. And the three of you, what was missing? What were you hoping because you're kind of trial by fire, right? You're just throwing the wolves and.
We actually had several sessions.
You did, but I still think we missed some things, and
Yeah.
so,
We're tailed off, I think.
yeah.
Mhm.
And the world was different. We had a lot going on then too,
There
but.
should- In this document, there should be at least a reference to that, maybe an attachment showing the list of
Or even if we
topics or
just
something
had
like that.
an agenda or
Mhm.
a list of topics that we're gonna make sure we cover, and we can always divide up and who does what when, or meets with somebody or whatever, but yeah, I think if we make sure we have a list of topics. And the MSBA is a really great one to start with, but
Mhm.
what's specific for Red Wing? What do they need to know about Red Wing School District?
And the new ones coming on, we should probably have a time for them to ask questions
Yes,
with that,
yeah.
As part of the
So us telling you everything, you might have questions, but we may not have given time for them to be dedicated to ask. I may not have the answer.
Right.
Well, that would be a good workshop, Everything you've always wanted to know and more.
In 5 minutes or less.
I'll quit.
So we could add orientation for new board members, topics to cover. I know we all go through the phase one, that there's the school board members / superintendent leadership guidelines that MSBA has, and those I think are really good that, some of those we kind of duplicate in this, some we don't. It would be good to have that as an attachment to it, or incorporate some of those things in there that are not in there already.
What is that called again?
The school board members / superintendent leadership guidelines.
Sounds good.
And we do have a lot of those in the, where we have like our, continuous improvement, our collaborative decision-making, norms of operation, those things. We do have a lot of those copied over in there, but I think, there are others that, and I don't think we necessarily have to retype them, just have that.
Yes. Well, Lisa did a really great job with those yellow binders, if you remember when so, that kind of has all of those forms in it. And I just think in this document, because we're kind of talking about what do we do as a board, it would just be good to list, these are the things that new members are expected to make sure you cover or whatever.
I got a couple questions. We're going through the whole document, or are we going page by page?
You can pick anything out, I think, at this point.
I have a few picked out.
All right. Here.
Article 4, it's superintendent succession planning, and this article is largely copied and adapted with permission from the new owned public schools, correct?
Correct, yeah.
I'm just going through emergency / short-term absence.
Mhm.
My understanding is Mr. Nemenich, according to this, would be the next in command if Mr. Nemenich is not in the building. And the other one is we do not have an employee that is a business manager. The New Ulm does. We do not. We have a contracted person. So those two we should look at. Are those two proper right now, today? No. So those are something to think about.
Kind of review item number one, or maybe the whole.
But number one is
section.
fine because, school acting superintendent must possess superintendent license in Minnesota. Do we know if Mr. Norton's got one?
He does.
He probably does. He lives in Wisconsin. Like my guess.
He does have one.
He does have one from Minnesota?
Mhm.
Oh, perfect. Well, that answers my question. Page 2 on number permanent, review. We have a personnel committee. We don't really have a personnel committee anymore.
Where's that, which,
Page 48, number 1, under review. Number 1, under review, middle of
oh,
page.
gotcha, yep.
So we no longer have a personnel committee, unless that changes. Page 49, operational and norms. Number 1, agendas for board and committee meetings are developed cooperatively between the chair and the responsible administrator with input from the administrators and board members. And then you go over to agenda committee meetings, the chair, vice chair, and superintendent. So it kind of contradicts each other. Needs to be cleaned up. Backing up, back to page 49, audio taping, videotaping, and live streaming a meeting. The board chair will determine if special meetings, workshops, and training sessions and committee meetings are videotaped or live streamed. My understanding is we're doing it all, live streaming and videotaping everything now. Has that changed?
No, we're streaming every,
So we should probably, then that should be removed.
Oh, the only exception that we've done in the past would be if we had an MSBA training session in person. I'm not saying it doesn't matter to me, but I think that's why that exception was in there. So we should at least talk about it.
Special meetings, workshops are videotaped, will determine, so.
well, there might be reasons why we wouldn't want to for some of them. If it was something like that, like if it was a training where,
We-
you know, they
whatever.
didn't want that streamed.
Each
content.
workshop, and regular school board meeting, number 1, videotape, live stream, if feasible. Or, it says if feasible, or whatever, but I don't think you have duplicate, you don't have 2 lines there. And,
By the way, Jim, was that under audio taping, video taping, live streaming?
Mhm.
yes. That's all I have at this time.
There are some things with the student school board that are different. So it has the, one female, one male from each class from junior and senior class. And that's not how it's structured now. So, and there are just some other things in that are not how it's currently happening.
Would you mind just writing
So I
that
can-
up, what would be in there, and then
Yep.
copy and paste
I
it?
apologize, I have one more.
Okay, go ahead.
Individual meetings between board members and superintendent. Board members are encouraged to set up in-person and or virtual meetings with superintendent. Maybe we should say board members and superintendent are encouraged to set up in-person or virtual meetings. It shouldn't be all just us on the person that we supervise. So maybe he or she would probably do that with us too.
Which article is that in?
Page 53, bottom of the page.
Oh, perfect.
I've said enough.
Any other, sorry, I don't know who's in the queue for this and who's
I'm
left.
not, I'm not.
Are you?
I just went in, I know somebody else had.
Oh, I'm
Are
not
you-
in there.
Okay, you're not in there?
No, I
Okay.
whispered it to, raise.
Okay, Mr. Beard.
I'm just wondering if, we should maybe add something like an organizational chart for the district showing where the school board fits into the scheme of everything and how everything tracks from the school board to the superintendent to directors and principals and then to teachers and paraprofessionals and that whole thing. If that would, it's an awful lot, but it might be good for the board to know, have that readily available in the school board procedures. I don't know what others think on it, I'm just.
Every organization should have an organizational.
Right, I'm just wondering if it needs, wouldn't it be appropriate to have one in here?
And right now we have one in the employee handbook, so it'd be very easy just to
Add them.
include it in here.
That'd be great. And then we had talked about putting in things like, expectations of, I know we have the meeting timeline in here, but expectations of changes made to the board packet.
Oh, yeah.
And then we had talked about the expectation of notifying the board of, I don't know, consequential
Personnel
incidents or,
issues.
yeah, personnel issues, incidents at the school. Kind of like what Terry Morrow had said, that, you know, anything that the public is gonna hear about and be like, hey, what's going on with XYZ at the grocery store, that there aren't surprises.
Are you referring to, on the first part, about changes to the board book, which was another whole other can of worms?
Yeah, like if we update
Yeah.
something, then we notify board members. Yeah.
Is there a timeline? Because you post it on Wednesdays normally, or maybe Thursday. So, are we going to allow people to post things, change things that they post? Come Saturday or Sunday or Monday to post something different? Or we just say it's, or should you just say, if it was important enough, it should have been in there on Wednesday or Thursday when you posted it, it should wait till the next week?
Yeah, I think if there, my personal feeling, of course, it's up to you, but my personal feeling is if there's a major new issue, that, you know, that should wait till the next meeting unless it's an emergency. But for example, for today's meeting, we had an employee rescind her resignation. And so, you know, we updated the consent agenda for tonight's meeting just to clarify that. And so we sent a message out to board members. So I think it depends. You know, generally, if there's a big issue that has to be discussed or decided, we want to wait. If it's after Wednesday, let's wait. But if it's a minor thing, from my perspective, you know, there might be some ability to change.
And I understand that. I think a few times in the past, we've said, I think it's you, I want to pull this out for something else has happened, we pull it out. So in that case, the person rescinded there.
Right.
You could have said, I'm pulling 1-4B or whatever off the agenda tonight, instead of redoing the new, all of this.
Yeah. And either way works for me, but, you know, I think the key is that you'd want to know that it's coming. Yeah, because you probably don't want to come to the meeting and then all of a sudden the person says, well, we're gonna add a new hire, we're gonna take away resignation or something. It'd be more of a surprise. And so that's why we've been updating the consent agenda. But either way works for us. You know, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think it's difficult when, if you've gone and you've reviewed it, or if you've printed it or whatever, and then there are changes. So I think maybe leaving it the same, but still sending the email to say, you know, this item on the consent agenda is no longer accurate, I'll be pulling it at the meeting, or something like that, so that it's both, you know, both what was posted is still correct, or stays the same, I guess is what I should say. What's posted stays the same, but we also have the heads up that there's gonna be changes. But I was thinking like, you know, if we're gonna have a presentation, we're gonna have a presentation about winger flight paths. If the person presenting doesn't have their slide deck ready on Wednesday, like, they should be able to add that as an extra, because it's not content, I don't know. We're going to get the information from them as they're in their presentation, but it's nice. Sometimes people have not put it in because they didn't have it ready on Wednesday. And so then we're all looking at this little itty bitty screen to try to read when they share their screen, whereas if it was added as an extra or something like that, we could pull it up. We know the person is gonna come talk, it's not an issue that we're gonna have to vote on. I think maybe that's like a critical distinction, is whether or not we have to make a decision about it. If it's an informational thing, like, I don't know, I guess maybe keep adding to it within reason, but if it's something that requires a decision, I need time to know that that decision is coming and to be able to, read through it and make sure that I understand all the pieces. I don't know if that,
Key for
Makes
me,
sense.
is to make sure we get the slide deck. Because
Right.
really that should be included in the official board packet. If somebody's giving a presentation,
Mm-hmm.
sure, video and audio is fine, but we should have a paper copy to keep in our notebooks for archival purposes.
Mm-hmm. okay, sure.
So that's, and so I've been trying to push people to try to get us the slide decks on that Wednesday, but it doesn't always happen. It's not the end of the world, just like you said, Anna. They're just trying to get information, so.
Or if you just push it off 2 weeks, it's not a big deal either.
Mhm. It's like, we have to have it at this time on this day, or we'll have to move it to the next 2 weeks. We're not upset if you're not ready,
Right,
just,
postpone it.
yeah, if you're not ready, we'll move you to the next 2 weeks, just so we can keep things consistent and concrete.
When next available opening.
Because otherwise, it feels like it's a lot of waiting. And oops, we gotta slide that in, and oops, we gotta slide that in.
Right.
Can I still do this? Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be good with that. And, yeah, just because if we can post it or wait, as long as, they get it.
The other board I was on, the cutoff was this date and time. You didn't have it there.
You want to present it that day?
Yeah, that's
Three
how
other
council
members have come
rolls
up.
too.
That's what the next thing.
Mhm.
It's just the way it was. It's just, then there was no, everyone's the same.
Sure.
Be fair and consistent. Fair and consistent.
Well, if there's a consensus of the board, instead of making changes to the documents, it'd be pretty easy for us just to say, send the email out to board members, say, these are the 3 things that are gonna change. The dates on the ELA or something else, and then we'll just do that at the meeting. Yeah, that's no problem. That's what I did for probably 15 years, before, online packets were more popular.
Yeah, I think that's good, because then you know that if I have time Thursday to review the packet, I can do it then. If I have time Sunday to review the packet, I can do it then. Otherwise, like if I review it Thursday, then I think like Sunday or Monday morning, I gotta check again and like see if it,
Switching out
and
papers.
sometimes I don't have that kind of time on Monday. It depends on what job I'm working. So, yeah, I think if once the packet's up, it stays the same. And then if we need to make change, or if things change between Wednesday and Monday, which is totally reasonable and things do change, that the change occurs in the meeting, I guess, and we get the notification. But it doesn't change.
Just
the
make
packet.
sure everybody that knows that you've asked people to bring stuff to this board, know the date, the time cutoff.
Right,
Mhm.
to have their
Hard
information.
and fast. Then you'll have less things.
I like posting on Wednesdays. A lot of people, or a lot of schools will have it on like a Thursday or Friday even. If it was up to me, I'd rather do it the Monday, 1 week before, and just be done. We all have deadlines, let's just follow the deadline.
Other thoughts?
I'll make changes in the document and I'll get some info from Anna and then we'll want to review it again together because, you'll be thinking of more things and maybe I won't word it right or I misunderstood. So I'll bring it back. I don't know if I can do it in 2 weeks, but sometime in June.
You have 3.
That's right, I do have 3 weeks. 5 Monday, May.
So I'll pull
Good
that,
call.
topics to cover from MSBA, but then I guess, and not just for Jennifer and Nikki and I, but anybody, like what are the things that you wish had been covered when you started? If you think of anything, let me know and I'll add it to a list and go from there.
Yeah, we'll have 1 board member new board member this year, so we might as well get it
Yeah,
together.
well, I could refile you.
It's not too late.
I've been told my hands are gonna be taped, so I can't.
For fishing pole.
Keep going on the superintendent. I was looking at the tentative timeline starting in June, and then I just totally missed that April and May were at the bottom of that, but just dropping the ball on it.
I think that's it.
Okay.
Motion to adjourn the workshop?
Yeah.
Oh, wait, I thought you made it.
I did, I guess.
Okay, so we have a motion to adjourn by Mr. Bryant, second by Ms. Tower. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. All right, motion carried. We are adjourned at 6:19. We'll reconvene at 6:30.
Okay.
Okay,
Return to home screen, go to the next screen.
I think it should be a pretty quick. I shouldn't say that. Every time I say that.
It won't be over by 7.
Probably not by 7.
Well, that's very
We don't have
good.
too many things on the list though.
Man, it's pretty cool in here.
to order. All members of the school board are present and Superintendent Carson Anderson. We did our Pledge of Allegiance before our workshop, and Ms. Rowe is going to read our mission statement.
The mission of the Red Wing Public Schools is to educate and inspire all students as they realize their full potential and become respectful, responsible, and productive citizens.
Okay, meeting agenda. Does anyone have any additions, subtractions, corrections they would like to make to the agenda? If not, I'm looking for a motion to approve it.
So moved.
Second. Okay, we have a motion to approve the agenda by Ms. Rowe, second by Ms. Smith. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. All right, that carries 7-0. Our educational plan is included in our packet and guides our direction. Recognitions and upcoming events. We have quite a few. So, of course, we are excited for graduation and want to honor and recognize all of the graduates who have done amazing work over their career at Red Wing and are, I'm sure, very excited to be wrapping it up officially. Graduation is Friday, June 3rd at 7 p.m., hopefully outside as long as weather permits. And
You might want to, board members should probably be there when, we should probably.
what time should we be there?
We'll have Beth Kelly reach out to you.
Wonderful. There are a number of other graduation celebrations happening, and those are in the packet. So the Hispanic graduation celebration is May 20th at 2 o'clock. I believe that's a Friday. Native American graduation celebration is May 25th at 5 p.m. and that's a Wednesday, thank you. Friday, May 27th, the River Bluff Education Center graduation is at 1:45 p.m. Then June 3rd, as I mentioned, is the Red Wing High School graduation. Five Rivers Online graduation is Saturday, June 4th at 10:30 a.m. Other than graduations, we have a band concert tonight. There is jazz in the park on Wednesday. The spring play, which is Fools by Neil Simon, is happening this weekend, the 19th, 20th, and 21st. Do we have other recognitions and upcoming events?
I just add, thank you for the hard work of putting that newsletter together. Ann has been doing that, and it's phenomenal. Anything you possibly want to know, I was looking through that. It always comes out on Sunday nights, and it's so helpful. If you want to get a dose of all the things that are happening all across the district from preschool on up, that's a really great place to go. So thank you for doing such a great job of putting that together for us. And I just want to say thank you to Mr. Bender. He's retiring and he's been taking time to auction off all of his ties with the proceeds going to some scholarships here at the high school. So what a great idea. It's been so fun. I was outbid on the Packer tie, so I was trying to get that one, but it didn't work. So thank you to Mr. Bender for doing that. They're going to end up in some great new places.
Put it $2? No. I just asked, I don't know. Just
It
It went for a lot.
Not that much.
Right.
Question, are they having an awards banquet
Senior.
for the scholarships? Is that coming up? Usually on a Wednesday,
May 25th.
same day as
Scholarships, same day.
What time
I think that's
7
National
o'clock.
Honor Society too, isn't it?
Yeah,
What
usually.
time is it at?
7 o'clock.
Thank you. That's always a fun night. A lot of excitement that night.
It's fun.
All right. Next up is public comment. We do not have anyone here signed in for public comment. Did you receive any emails?
I did not.
Okay, I did not either. Just a reminder, if you would like to come share a comment, you have 3 minutes to do so. And you can also And/or you can email a statement to either Superintendent Anderson or myself, and we will read that for you at the meeting. Okay. Next up, student school board. I don't think any of my student school board folks are here tonight. I know a couple of them are in the band concert and have other things happening tonight. But we did have a meeting today, and they are working on gathering information from their fellow students, input about discipline, the dress code, and the student handbook, including things like backpacks. That's always kind of a hot button issue of whether backpacks are allowed. They know that we will be discussing handbooks and that type of thing in August. So the goal is for them to get as much information as they can from their peers and be able to present to the board what student feelings are about those issues prior to that.
My suggestion, if we could go through building leadership,
Sure.
because obviously they need to weigh in as well.
Yep.
But thank you for making those arrangements. It's going to be great to hear the students' perspective on these kinds of things.
And it was really interesting. It was a good, interesting conversation with them. So I think they have a lot of interesting feedback to share. All right, we are on to COVID-related topics.
We have the data sheet, but there's nothing else to report.
I heard the blue,
Loud and clear.
but I don't have the right thing open. Sorry, what was that?
Well, Polly raised her hand.
Oh, Ms. Tower.
What do we know about the increasing numbers in Goodhue County and how it's impacting school staff, students? What, are we seeing trends? Do we know anything specific? How long people are out, you know? I'm just wanting more information around it because I'm hearing a lot, but I don't have specific answers for what I'm hearing, such as, oh my gosh, the numbers are so high. What's gonna happen? What are we doing?
I do not believe the county is providing us that information.
Okay.
If they were, so I can't speak to what the county is experiencing. I do know that the school district still provides information on the tracker here. And you can see that it's increased over the last couple of weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, and it impacting students and staff members. Obviously, when that happens, we have even a bigger problem finding substitutes. So, but the numbers are actually in the report. Not nearly as high as it was in January, February, or last year, but yeah, I know that Joni and the team are tracking that.
Okay, so if there was anything really alarming, they'd let you know, which you could let us know.
Definitely.
That would be great.
Mhm.
Yeah, I was just looking at the substitute list and that's gone up, so.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
All right, school board reports.
Negotiations, we'll be talking later this evening about custodial negotiations and how that's going. We've got a tentative agreement with the cooks and we continue to work with support personnel. Things are going well. So, nothing else to report there.
Any other liaison reports?
Native American Committee, is looking to bring some maybe, requests and recommendations in the future about, having, a person lead the committee now that Jason is leaving. Also, we had some parents bring up concern about, it might go hand in hand with this light thing that we're doing here. It's now becoming a diagnosis and it has something to do with the lights. Something I Island syndrome. She's got documentation and she has lots of information. And so this might be something I would like to, because it would fall under special education. So maybe something to look at in the future. So I can pass this over to, I would feel comfortable passing it to you and you, Board Member Tower, and perhaps Sherry.
Great, yeah, I think that would be perfect.
It's just information
Yeah.
on medical diagnosis and stuff and what their suggestions and recommendations for treatment in school settings. So.
And educating,
Mm-hmm.
thank you.
All right, if there's nothing else, then I believe we're on to administrative reports.
You can see Paul Hartman's comments about prom. It went extremely well, and he lists a lot of people to thank, including the student prom crew that was quite busy that day before prom. Another reminder, the employee recognition celebration. I do have a section here on Redmond High School student discipline, second page of the report. We had a really good meet and confer session with Kirby Hansen. So George Kramer and I met with Kirby, and Kirby expressed some of the significant concerns that are still happening here. Just as a reminder, and by the way, George Nemenich is on the call in case there's some questions about this in general, or even specific questions. We are providing additional supervision in the hallways, especially near the bathrooms. So we actually have staff members with tables there, so they can be doing their work. And then we're doing our best to limit bathroom access to 2 students at a given time because of previous concerns about vandalism. That has significantly helped the situation. So we're glad that the high school is able to do that. In the hallways, students are now required to carry paper passes, just like all of us probably had to experience many years ago when we were growing up. So we're getting back to where we should have stayed all along.
Yeah, we still do.
Yeah.
One color for the whole school.
Right. And then George, are you on the call?
Yes.
Could you just talk about some of the other things that have been taking place at the high school since the meeting we had?
I think you're
Oh,
muted
you're
again.
on mute.
Sorry about that. So there was a concern about students in the hallway during class time, and there was we kind of had pinpointed a time period where that was happening. It's right around the lunch period, and so because of that, we've taken some steps to make sure that the hallways are kind of being monitored at that time a little more significantly, and we wanted to make sure that any extra traffic that might come from a classroom or from passing time, as you know, we have 2 different schedules, so we do have 2 separate passing times. We can kind of limit that as much as we can. So that was one additional thing that we talked about and what we've been working on. I know Frank was involved with that last week in trying to make sure that was monitored more aggressively.
Do you know, I don't remember in the previous years, pre-COVID, did 8th grade have the same schedule as 9 through 12, or did they have a different passing time as well? Or was it just because we're having 7th and 8th together and we wanted to keep them separate that they have a different?
They did not. They were on the same schedule that everybody else was on in the past. So when we went to the 2 grade, when we had 7th and 8th, we just felt like, especially with the 7th graders, and we just felt like we wanted to do something a little bit different because it was just to keep those 2 grades separated from high school students. And so in order to make that happen, we had to go to the 2 schedules. Yes.
Anyone have other concerns, questions?
No.
Okay.
Good to see you, George.
Yeah, good to see you guys. Yes, absolutely.
All right.
I did see the employee recognition celebration that Superintendent Anderson has listed. It's graduation day, but in the morning, and board members are always invited to attend that, so. yes.
I did see it was at 7:30. I was like, that's the same time as graduation, and then I saw the AM.
Yes, it ends up being a long day, but it's fun.
Let's see, what is, I think, yeah, 19, they had it at 19.
That's the last time.
Yeah, I was there. Should we just go on, should we just move on to other things?
I got something here on this report that Jackie could probably answer anyway. I'm looking here at the status of our COVID-related federal grants, and if I'm counting up money, we're over $2 million that we still have not received yet, am I right?
Correct. It is a spend and reimburse program. So as we spend, we draw down quarterly. Some of our grants were not approved at the last quarterly draw date. So when we get into June for the next quarterly draw date, that'll catch up.
Well, some of this will actually build up the general fund though too, right?
A little bit, yes, because you were using the funds for things we would have normally spent general fund dollars on.
How many of the, or are there things that will continue past the end of this fiscal year that are from those ESSER funds? We have some that are going to continue past.
Yes, we budgeted some of the positions we hired with ESSER funds to be 2 years out of the grant, and things like that. There are things we budgeted for this year we did not spend because we could not hire.
Got it.
Mhm.
So we'll still be seeing money coming in from that.
Through the next school year,
Got it.
at least. Mhm.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Let's see, while we're waiting for a minute, do we want to talk about who's going to be at any of these graduation celebrations? Make sure somebody's at all of them. Unfortunately, I'm not at, I will be at the high school graduation.
Yeah.
To go
Check our
back,
schedules on that. Maybe reach out to somebody.
sure. Okay,
I think we can go through the consent agenda
sure,
stuff.
yep,
I'm gonna be pulling some stuff that I think Carson should be here.
okay.
Okay. How about the policy then? We can go on to something else.
Sure,
We have the donations and grants. Dude,
yeah, let's do that.
Well, is Carson handling the land sale?
I am.
You are, so there's another item.
Okay. I'll just skip ahead a little. Okay, so we're gonna jump ahead to donations and grants. So we've received $222.19 from 3M for the Twin Bluff Playground Project. We received kits, autism support kits from Molly Langer. Box tops for education, brought in $16.10, and Mark and Valerie Estabrook donated $50 to the emergency medical fund. So thank you to everyone who's contributed for those things.
make a motion to approve the donations that you just outlined.
I'll second that.
All right, and because this is a resolution, we need to do a roll call vote. So we have a motion by Mr. Bryant, second by Ms. Rowe to accept the donations and grants. Is there any further discussion? All right, then Ms. Buck,
Aye.
Mr. Dierks,
Aye.
Ms. Rowe,
Aye.
Ms. Howard,
Aye.
Ms. Tift,
Aye.
Mr. Bryant,
Aye.
and chair votes aye, so that carries 7-0. Thank you again to everyone. I think I probably still have some box tops for education in a junk drawer somewhere in my house, unfortunately. It never got turned in when my kids were in
They
elementary.
still call them junk drawers? I remember that when I was young.
Okay. Let's move on to policy 609. So this is when we made a few changes, just to some wording. This is our second reading of policy 609. Is there any discussion? Conversation about that? Okay, if not, we will be bringing that at the next meeting, I believe, for the vote at that point. Okay, next up is our purchase agreement for land sale. So Ms. Paradis can give us all the details. So we had a closed session of the school board on April 18th to discuss an offer that was made. So after that, Ms. Paradis made the counter offer, which was accepted.
So our counter offer has been accepted for the sale of the land at 316 Goodhue Street. The purchase price is $25,000. We have received the earnest money of $1,000. We have a tentative closing date of June 13th. And the language supports the board's agreement to pay closing costs up to X amount. And I'm trying to remember what X amount was. It $2,000 or $3,000. Yeah.
2 or 3.
Yeah. And I'm trying to find it. My memory is failing me right now. Yeah.
We talked about 3, but we put down 2.
Yep. So tonight, if the board approves the purchase agreement and the resolution, this will move to our lawyer to draft up the closing documents by June 13th.
Background, you may want to elaborate that it's Habitat for Humanity, that is
Yes.
for the people listing them.
Yep. It is Goodhue County Habitat for Humanity. They have, I haven't been over there, but they were going to start construction on the lot immediately next to this. So they're purchasing this lot for future use as well as using it for storage during the construction of the current house.
All right, so I'm looking for a motion to approve that resolution.
So moved.
Second. We have a motion by Ms. Tower, second by Ms. Tiff to approve the resolution, approving the purchase agreement. Is there any other discussion? All right, so again, because it's a resolution, we will do roll call, this time starting with Mr. Dierks.
Aye.
Ms. Rowe?
Aye.
Ms. Tower?
Aye.
Ms. Tiff? Aye. Mr. Bryant?
Aye.
Ms. Buck?
Aye.
And chair votes aye, so that carries 7-0. All right.
Thank you.
Okie dokie. So we do have a plan to go into a closed session a bit later here. Because of that, we will not be in our public session when we talk about upcoming meetings and future topics. We usually just go right to adjournment when we are done with the topic of our closed session. So I just wanted to talk about those very briefly here. So for June 6th, our workshop is a finance focus, also talking about next year's budget and referendum planning. At the actual meeting is a Title I update by Jen Grove, LETRS training. I don't know what those letters stand for.
Letters.
The
Letters
reading training.
It's a what?
It's the reading training
Okay.
for the state and the.
Got it. Okay, thank you. Teacher externships, preschool programming update, board evaluation, and the policy 609, the one that we just did the second reading on, and our teacher seniority list. Is there anything else that anyone would like to add to the June 6th meeting or workshop?
Well, in June, we talked about the superintendent evaluation, so we have
Yes.
to add those in there.
Yes, in June, so
And the
expected
board
probably June 20th
self-eval.
we'll do that. Yes, and so that's the board evaluation. It's already on there for June 6th.
Oh, that's on the list already?
But we will add superintendent eval. Okay, any other things that anyone wants to add to future workshops?
Yeah, we're gonna need a special meeting to do a superintendent search, because I was just offered another job.
Okay.
So I would suggest earlier rather than later, if we do it later in May. I know it'll screw up Arlen's 5 Monday a month plan, but,
Can't do it the 5th Monday, that's Memorial Day, that's a holiday.
oh, that's right.
Go Tuesday.
Could go Tuesday, or go the 23rd, or the 31st.
Yeah, first it has to, we have to negotiate a contract and it has to be approved by their board. But in the meantime, perhaps Anna or whoever could make those arrangements with MSBA or whoever you choose. So at least we're ready to go like that.
Do we want to try for Tuesday the 31st for a special meeting?
Tuesday the
Let me see, I'm
31st.
retired, let me check my schedule.
Well, if you're like me, you're so busy.
Or
growing up
Wednesday
and
the
you can't
1st,
keep up.
either of those? Does anyone have a preference?
I prefer the 31st, not
The
the
1st I'm not available, 31st.
Okay,
What
So which
is,
day?
can we do it virtually if possible? If I,
How about the 24th,
well, no, I'm having knee surgery, so.
the 25th,
I'm not gonna, yes, on the 25th.
how about the 24th?
I think you can do it virtually.
I could do it virtually?
Yeah,
if you
because
say
of
where you're gonna
definitely.
be.
medical
Okay,
situation.
yeah,
You just have
so
to put
the
it in a day.
31st is great.
And I'm thinking, so this is gonna be, if I can, yeah, yes. So we'll tentatively schedule a meeting for Tuesday, May 31st. Do you want to say 6 PM?
Yeah, 31st, 6 PM?
If it's possible to do it earlier, do you want us to try to get it done earlier? Or
That's
do
what I
you
was
want
thinking.
Earlier in the
Almost
month,
earlier.
earlier in the day?
Or, I mean, earlier in the month.
I was gonna say that Tuesday, the 24th, or the 23rd, that one, Tuesday.
They have to do your posting,
Right?
once you know
If
everything.
we posted it today, the 23rd would work, right?
I can't
Post it
do the
tomorrow.
23rd.
I
no.
can't do the 23rd.
I'm kind of booked.
24th?
Yeah, 31st.
I'm deep in harvest. I'm locked into a schedule this
Okay.
month.
31st it is,
Sorry.
And if I'm getting info from MSBA, that gives me a little more time to get
Yeah,
things back from them. Okay,
That's always the first call, so.
yep, all right.
yeah, 31st is fine, and then Anna can do the work, and I know there will be some, qualified superintendents available, so, it'll be a good situation.
Do we say congratulations here, or?
Yeah.
I feel like it's
You can wait till
inappropriate.
another time.
Yeah, not to acknowledge it, but.
Okay. So, we were just jumping around a little bit. We are back to administrative reports.
Oh, well, if you
If
have,
there's
we
anything
discussed
else.
it otherwise.
We talked about,
Kind of hard to top that one.
yeah,
If you have any questions, just let me know.
There, that's a good answer.
Jim, it's only taken me 3 years to kind of get going fast on those
Well,
administrative.
yeah. What time is it? Anna's trying to go for the record.
I'm working on it.
I'm gonna slow down.
Hurry.
I'm on the wall
Don't drag your feet. Okay, if not, then we are on to consent agenda.
I'd like to pull item 3, 6, and 7.
Okay. Does anyone have anything else they would like to pull from the consent agenda? Okay. So I'm looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda minus items 3, 6, and 7.
So moved. Second.
Motion to approve minus 3, 6, and 7 by Ms. Rowe, second by Ms. Tower. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Okay, so that carries 7-0. Let's go back to item 3.
The reason I asked to pull it is because I want to be clear what's going on with the email that we got that somebody withdrew their resignation or whatever, so I think it's just better to pull it here, get a full explanation in this, on that item before we have to vote on it.
Sure, so Sheila Bergen had submitted a letter of resignation, so we added it to the consent agenda for approval tonight. But then, I don't know if it was today or if it was late last week, but she came in and wanted to rescind it, and so we removed her name from the consent agenda.
I'll come back, Sheila.
Shortest presentation ever.
Right.
Welcome back, Sheila.
From the board package that was put out.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
No, on that item.
On item 3, no.
If not, I move we approve item 3 on the consent agenda, the new hire and reassignments minus, whatever that name was.
Sheila Bergen.
Okay,
We're thrilled she's going to stay.
Second.
all right, so we have a motion to approve item 3 by Mr. Dirk, second by Mr. Bryant. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. That carries 7-0. Okay, item 6.
Item 6, I understood that there was possibly a change in dates on that one, and as it stands right now, I don't want to approve, I'm not going to be voting in favor unless I hear something different, so that's why I pulled it.
Sure. So the actual dates in the previous agreement, or the agreement that's posted, show like it would start at the beginning or at the end of this school year and then start at the beginning of the 25-26 school year. That's when it would end. So the teacher requested putting in specific dates. And so that's why the adjustment there would be the extended leave of absence with the starting date of July 1st of 2022 and ending date of June 30th of 2025.
Okay.
Yes.
The reason I'll be voting against this, extended leave of absence, I'm not opposed to extended leave of absence, but if we're doing that and paying money out of our pocket during that time for TRA and different things, I can't.
Any other discussion? Would anyone like to make a motion regarding item 6?
I move to approve item 6.
I would second that.
Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay.
Okay,
Okay, so that passes 6-1.
I go with item 7 here.
Yep.
Reason I bring this up, I got nothing against the agreement per se, it's consistent with what's been done in the past. However, my thought is spending $78,000 a year on an SRO. Is it in our interest to spend that kind of money for that position, or should we be looking at hiring maybe 2 different people to help monitor our hallways here in the high school? I read through the board pack and all the different things this person will do as an SRO, but the majority of those duties, the police department is obligated to do whether we hire them or not, so. You can't put a value on, they're not going to enforce school rules, they're going to, SRO will be responsible for enforcing legal rules, but as far as school, violation of school policy, different things that it doesn't get to be a criminal matter, we're not necessarily gaining anything on it, so. I also see in this agreement that it can be canceled by either party at any time, so I'm not real concerned with it, but I want that discussion out there. Is this in our best interest to have an SRO, or could we be accomplished in this other way? So, if anybody else speaks up, great. If not, I'll go along with it.
Mr. Bryant, you're in the queue.
Thank you. I happen to be in one of my former positions involved in the formation of this CSR program here at the Liberty High School. And the reasoning was that the high school is like a little city. There's 1,000 or more kids. There's 1,000 or more students plus many other staff that a lot of things can happen up here. We all pick up the news every day. If you follow the news, there's some type of shooting or whatever every day in the United States. Horrible. Who do they call? Law enforcement. So having somebody here when my children were here, gave me some type of relief knowing that there was somebody here to help possibly prevent something, not wait for the police to respond from wherever else they are in the community. Not that they won't, because they will. I mean, we used to do training when Columbine came out, used to sit and wait. They learned a long time that was wrong. Now you go in. They go right in. That's why the doors are open. You look around. That's why they have training and all that. I will not vote in favor of ending this agreement at all for the sake of our students and staff of this building. So,
Ms. Tower?
I appreciate you both with those comments. Arlen, I think it's a very good question. I think it's one that has been discussed repeatedly throughout school districts across the country in the same vein of shootings aren't stopping. Kids are bringing weapons to school, loaded weapons. It happens more than anybody would want it ever to happen. I had emailed Karsten around the time of the budget things and asked if we could have a meeting around what we're doing for safety in the district. Are we updated on our safety plans? Are we updated on our exit plans? Where are we at in that big picture? And Pam had asked for Officer Kelly, but for Pat Kelly to come in and kind of talk a little bit more about his role in the high school. And when I was there, just speaking with him in the lunchroom, he's like, just follow me around for one day, just so you could see what I see every day. I said, I'd like to. However, I do the same thing at my school, and I know what goes on. It's scary sometimes for kids and for adults. Is the police the intervention we want, we need, we strive for? Is it a team of people that we bring together? I would like to have a more comprehensive look at how safety is done, and I had asked for a closed session, but I don't know if that's appropriate, just to discuss specifics about doorways or, unsafe spots. I don't know if that's an appropriate thing to do, but I would really like the board to be up to date on every policy we have around safety for our students. 2 things we can hopefully do in schools: keep our kids safe, teach them to read. Like those, like that's it. Like we can do a lot more, but if we don't do those 2 things, and safety for me is number 1. So I'm going to be supporting that tonight because I don't have an alternative plan. And I refuse to pull a piece of our safety plan away from something we're not clear is going on. That doesn't mean it can't be a conversation for the future on what that could look like for Red Wing Public Schools and police involvement. There could be a variety but I'd really like Mr. Kelly to give us his expertise and how he sees things to play out and what he thinks we need.
it's a good idea.
Yeah, in order to move it forward. And if he says, you can't get rid of it, then that's somebody's expert advice I have. But I really do appreciate you, Arlen, tonight bringing that up and questioning whether or not that's the path we want to take, in Red Wing. I really do. And Jim, thank you for your service on bringing it into the schools in the first place in really good intentions to keep kids safe.
Probably told you this, the person that was the first CSR at this building from the police department was Sheriff Marty Kelly.
I kind of remember that. So,
Did a wonderful job.
we have,
He wasn't sure of that.
right, but there's a lot of knowledgeable people that we have, and I think it's imperative upon us to understand, what are the safety procedures at Burnside? Are they all up to code? Sunnyside, Colville? How are we keeping our young people safe and our adults? So that's my spiel, and I appreciate you both for bringing it up.
Mr. Anderson?
If I could respond, I think we can go into closed session
okay.
for part of
That is
that.
one.
So that's a topic.
Maybe not the whole discussion, but for part.
Yeah, but for,
So-
yeah,
Yeah,
thank
so I
you.
wrote a big asterisk there, we'll have something.
You don't want to disclose your security.
Right.
No,
exactly.
that's what I'm saying,
Yeah, and from my perspective, I think both positions are valuable, Pat Kelly's position as well as the SRO. Also with the SRO, it's the time, like if there's an emergency, like what Jim said, it's also the relationships that Dan can form with students throughout the school year, because that helps in the summer and at other times during the year. And it's a really good link to have that connection with the city. It's helped us in many ways. So I'm a strong advocate for SROs. I think they make a positive difference in Red Wing. I'm not saying they make a positive difference in every community or every school, because everyone's different, but at least in Red Wing, it's gone really well. And then also, and perhaps the others can go first, but George Nemenich is on the call too, if there's some additional questions.
Ms. Buck?
I was gonna say I somewhat agree with Arlen. Down on Prairie Island, our police department sometimes ropes me in with the youth because they respond better to me versus the officer.
Mhm.
You know, because I'm the face that's like them. I'm the trusted adult, you know, and so I would suggest like social work or someone who is trained in trauma, maybe not to replace, but to add in. I love your idea of bringing these people with the expertise advice, giving us what they think, you know, and working together as a team instead of just us telling people what we think, because we're not the ones on the inside.
Right.
It's a whole other different story when you're on the outside,
Mhm.
or inside, sorry.
Outside of the inside and the inside
Yes,
of the outside.
all over.
And the upside down.
Ms. Rowe?
I love your idea of the safety team, like having a group of people. I'm a huge proponent of SROs as well. I think it bridges our community together in ways that it's hard to quantify for sure. I mean, it's hard to kind of put your finger on it, but there's a lot of people in our society who are afraid of police, who have very bad feelings about seeing police officers. And so I think this is a really good outreach in that way to kind of make those connections in community. And the other piece is, I know our SROs get the professional police training and the up-to-date stuff that they bring to us to give us the updated information so that we don't have to spend our other resources trying to understand. And, you know, one of those things that I think about is the ALICE trainings, that, you know, how do you respond to an active shooter?
So critical.
Those critical pieces. And so he can bring those pieces of expertise into our building and train the rest of us so we don't have to figure out, well, who's going to learn that piece for us and then disseminate that information. So, yeah, I would completely support that moving forward. But I really like your suggestion too. I think these questions need to be asked. Those are hard questions that we need to continually ask. And just because we've always done it this way doesn't mean we always should do it this way. So the only way we move forward is to ask those great questions and figure out how to do it better.
I do think that we should spend like a workshop session just talking about what this issue, school safety, go into a closed session to talk about the actual crisis management plans and those kind, instead of just including it as part of an organizational chart, you know, because all of a sudden it gets lost.
Yeah.
So, because this is really important, so let's put it in, focus on it during the workshop.
Mr. Dirks?
Well, I hope we were at the end here. Like I said, I'm not necessarily opposed to this contract, and I just wanted to have this discussion here. And I appreciate all the discussion we got, and I hope we do talk about it more. I've been a promoter in the past of our SRO. I signed the last agreement when I was board chair. I just sat with Carson talking to the city about it, and they wanted to raise higher rates, and we came to a number that was more reasonable to work with. So I'm not opposed to SRO. I wanted the discussion. So thank you.
I'm wondering if we could add it to a workshop in July.
Still
Maybe
can do
early
that.
August.
You can still do that, but we still got the contract to work.
Oh, yeah, my suggestion, still approve the contract, but then have that discussion like in July or August, because it's been a very busy year for Pat Kelly. So it'd be kind of nice to get our stuff in, you know, together and, you know, present it in a strong way.
So he can kind of wrap up what he knows instead of jumping into something straight off of. I can appreciate that.
Right.
But he'll be busy, he doesn't work there in the summer.
No, he doesn't, but I'm sure we can have him come in.
I would say maybe earlier, maybe the second meeting in June. we
That's a
probably do
possibility.
it. That way we're not making him cut right into his
Sure.
summer if he has any
Mhm.
plans.
Or check with him to see what works.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Make a motion to approve number 7, SRO contract.
Second.
Okay, there is a motion to approve item 7, by Mr. Bryant, second by Ms. Tower. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. And that carries 7-0.
Good discussion. Always good to have discussion.
And
Okay.
we're just stalling, so it's not 37 minutes long. You want to keep the record, I think, for shortest meeting.
She's already exceeded it, so we cut it off
I
now.
told you before, I haven't talked yet, so.
Yeah, you did.
All right.
It's Arlen's fault.
So, we are up to our closed session for custodial negotiations. We have already talked about our upcoming meetings and future topics. So once we go into closed session, it will be only to discuss those negotiations. And we will adjourn immediately after. So, I'm looking for a motion to enter closed session. Oh, yes.
I just want to clarify, here it says closed session for custodial negotiations. I thought before we had also support personnel.
Yeah, right
Is that
now,
part of
we're,
this or not?
not this time.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
well,
I
another
wanted to
session.
clarify, if it was, I was not going to attend,
Oh, sure.
but if it's not part of this, it's custodial, then I will participate.
Yeah, thanks for clarifying, but yeah, just custodians this time.
Okay,
Thank you.
so then, thank you for rejecting. I am looking for a motion to enter closed session.
So moved.
I'll second.
All right, motion by Ms. Tower, second by Mr. Bryant to enter closed session. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. All right, so at 7:17, we are going to end this meeting and enter a closed session. Lisa, do you have another meeting ready for us to go to?
Yes, I sent it to you during the meeting.
Go grab it.